all of you. On behalf of Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, I am happy to welcome you all today to this webinar on RoTEP, Benefits, Challenges and the Way Forward. The panel today will be led by Mr. T. Vishwanathan, Principal Partner, LNS. Vishwanathan sir has handled many cases before the Supreme Court, High Courts, tribunals, and before quasi-judicial officers. He is responsible for matters relating to customs, litigation, and consulting. Sir also regularly speaks before various industry forums on issues relating to customs and foreign trade policy. The esteemed panel today also comprises of Mr. Ravi Raghavan, Senior Partner, LLS. Ravi sir has been assisting clients on all aspects of indirect tax and allied laws, ensuring that the solutions are sound from legal and accounting perspectives. He heads the Bangalore office of LNS and has expertise in handling complex tax issues, both as part of litigation and advisory practice involving multinational companies, large domestic companies, including all major PSUs. Vishwanathan sir and Ravi sir will be today assisted by Mr. Ratin Jain, Partner, LNS. Ratin sir practices customs and foreign trade policy, both litigation and advisory. He has been advising several companies on a variety of issues having FTP implications under various export promotion schemes. Participants are requested to write their questions in the Q&A box during the session. We will try to take them one by one. If time permits, there will also be a Q&A session after the presentation concludes. Thank you. Over to you, Vishwanathan sir.
Thank you. We are audible, I suppose. Good afternoon, friends. We are going to talk about the new scheme which was introduced long back or announced long back, but effectively started from December or 1st January 21, and then the scheme guidelines have been notified very late. Okay. Contrary to the schemes announced by the government in Chapter 3 of the policy, which are out of love and affection of the exporting community, okay, this scheme is slightly different. Here, there is no love and affection shown by the government to the exporting community under this scheme. This is what my colleagues will be dealing with. I will hand over the mic to my colleague, Mr. Ravi Raghavan. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Here you are.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being part of this webinar on an important topic. As Vishwanathan sir pointed out, a topic or a benefit which was announced a long time ago. Hopefully, to continue what are the benefits that are being given under the MEIS scheme. Though it has been effective from 1st of January 21, and the exporting committee has been staking their claim in all the exports for the benefit under this scheme, the notification and the rates that are at the benefit that is being granted under the scheme has been only issued recently on 17th of August 21. All of you are aware that this is not a scheme or a benefit which is incentive which is granted under Chapter 3 of the foreign trade policy. It is in the nature of a refund or a remission which has been announced by the government in terms of Chapter 4 of the foreign trade policy. The need for introducing this RoTEP scheme or the remission of duties and taxes on export products was because of the WTO ruling against India, whereby various subsidies which are granted by the government was questioned and challenged. And because of the ruling coming against India, though there is an appeal which is pending, there was a requirement for the government to phase out the various schemes which are being operation which are in operation. One of those schemes which was questioned was the MEIS scheme, which continued till 31st of December 2020, and immediately from the next day, 1st January 21, the government announced the ROTEP scheme and indicated that the benefit will be available for all the exports which are being made from the EDI ports, and all the details were to be there on the ICE gate. Though it was intended that the benefit will be given to all the exporters, the system itself had some restrictions in not allowing this benefit for some of the exporters, namely the EOUs, etc. What we intend to cover as part of today's webinar would be what is the scheme that has been announced in terms of the notification of 17th August 21. What are the benefits that are being allowed? What are the exports that are not covered under the scheme? Whether the Appendix R, which covers the rate or the benefits to the various export products, is it what the exporters expected? Is it to be compared with what are the benefits that are being given under the MEI scheme? So these are some of the issues and the guidelines that have been issued, which we will be covering as part of our session today. To introduce this, the ROTEP scheme was, as you all know, was announced by the Ministry of Finance in September 2019. 1 year thereafter, in August 2020, in fact, the ministry sent for requests calling for data from the various DTA units, asking for the various benefits or embedded taxes that are there for a 6-month period from October 19 till March 20. This was basically information which the government collected to determine what will be the benefit of remission that will be granted in terms of this ROTEP scheme. The information was not called for from the EOUs and other units. It was called for from the DTA units, covering only a 6-month period from October 19 till March 20. This letter, which was addressed to various export promotion councils, various trade bodies, etc., gave complete details about what was the intention of the government to bring this scheme in, what are the various embedded taxes and duties which the government intended to cover or grant as a remission or a benefit refund under the scheme. And via press release on 31st of December 20, based on whatever information was available, the ROTEP scheme was announced to be made effective from 1st of January 21. The notification of 17th August 21, which clearly indicates that this is a scheme under Chapter 4 of the Foreign Trade Policy. It stipulates various objectives, the various operating principles which will be governed and which will be applicable under the scheme. In terms of the notification issued on 17th August, the DGFT has also notified the rates of the benefit which will be available under the ROTEP scheme to a large number of products in Appendix 4R of the Handbook of Procedure. Most of you would have gone through the rates. The rates range from 0.01% to about 4.3%. Some of the products, the rates are specific. Some of them it is ad valorem. In some of the products, there is also a cap which is fixed on what will be the maximum benefit available. The scheme will be governed in terms of the budgetary allocations, which are bound to change, and going by what are the wordings in the notifications and various other documents, there is a possibility that the budget will be either increased or kept at that level, and benefits may not be available beyond the budgetary allocation. So the overall budget will be by the Ministry of Finance in consultation with the Ministry of Commerce. We are not sure whether in a particular financial year, for export product where there is a rate specified, will the same rate continue throughout the year because of budgetary allocation? If the budget is not available, will the benefit be available for those exports or not at subsequent periods? Will there be different rates for the same product in different periods of the year? All those will have to be seen as to how, when the scheme is made operational and benefit starts coming in. They also have a ROTTEP policy committee, which will be chaired by the DGFT, who will take various decisions on other issues, and those decisions will be binding.
Ravi, as you
Yes.
said, it is budget constraint scheme. Okay, will it happen as it happened with the MEIS scheme? Okay, towards the fag end of the scheme, they said beyond 2 crores, we will not permit anybody to claim the MEIS benefit. Will such a stipulation be put by the government for this scheme also?
Going by the wordings, it seems to be that may be the case. That's what, in fact, I said that when I export a product in the beginning of April, I know, or beginning of the year, I know what is the benefit I will get in terms of Appendix R, the rate specified. But towards the end of the year, if budgetary constraints are there and the budget allocation is not there or is less, the government can put a restriction on the benefit that I will be eligible for. In fact, as you rightly said, under the MEIS, when they put a cap on a maximum benefit of 2 crores in the middle of the year, nobody expected that to come. An exporter, when he
Sure.
is exporting the products, will also be looking into what are the benefits that he will be getting. And most of the benefits that are available, most of the exporters, as commercial sense says that they will try to factor it as part of the export price of the export products, hoping that this benefit will come to them over a period of time. In fact, in the MEIS scheme, as you rightly said, people were exporting from 2020, from April 20. Most of them are yet to see what the benefit of that MEIS scheme, and all of them would have factored it. On fine morning, they put a cap and saying that the maximum benefit an SSC will get will be 2 crores. So the exporter expected substantial amounts as benefit which are legally available to him under the scheme, but there was a cap. So similar such restriction can be there, considering that there is going to be a overall budget for this ROTTEP scheme. Beyond the budget, will the government lean in favor of the exporters to increase the benefit where exports are substantial? There is foreign exchange which is flowing into the country, and exporter being entitled to will be given the benefit. So that needs to be seen. But the possibility, as you rightly said, are there can be a cap going by the budgetary allocations.
Thank you, Ravi, for the clarification. We will see at the QA session what happens if such a restriction comes.
Correct. So
Thank
the
you.
IceGate advisory note also indicates that the entire scheme will be made operational through the IceGate system. So whatever exports are happening through the EDI ports, those will be covered and it will be completely made operational through the IceGate. The intention seems to be that, as Ratan will later on discuss, to control everything through the system and not have any manual intervention in the entire operation of the scheme. Similar public notice are issued by the Calcutta Customs also. Now, in the IceGate system, as I indicated, though there was a requirement for all the exporters to stake their claim for the benefit of the ROTTEP scheme, the system itself did not permit some exporters like the EOUs, etc., to stake their claim for the benefit of the scheme. The cue from it was it that the government did not give benefit or did not want to give the ROTTEP scheme benefit for these EOUs or not? We will touch upon that going in the next slides, because there has been a deferment of the scheme for some of the exporters. We will look into that. What is the scheme? As I said, this is a scheme which is in the nature of a remission or a refund in terms of Chapter 4 of the Foreign Trade Policy. It is basically to provide refund of unrefunded taxes and levies which are borne on exported products. Basically, the embedded taxes which otherwise are not available, which are inbuilt into the export product. The letter of August 20 clearly indicated what are the various types of taxes and duties which was intended to be covered under this ROTTEP scheme. They were basically the mandi tax, VAT, which was payable on the petroleum products after introduction of the GST, cess, which was paid on coal, which is one of the important product at specified rates of 400 rupees per metric ton, which was embedded into the final product which was being exported either directly or indirectly. The central excise duty which was being paid on fuel. So all these were types of duties which were otherwise not available as credit or were not given as refund or any other exemption, which was supposed to be covered as part of the scheme. In fact, these were the embedded duties or taxes for which the data was collected and which was taken as the basis to determine what will be the rate of the RoDTEP benefit that will be given under or the remission benefit given under the scheme. In terms of the notification, there is a clear bar on giving this benefit, making this benefit available to the duties and taxes which are either exempted or which are remitted under any other schemes or which are credited. So if an assessee is claiming any credit of the GST paid on various inputs which otherwise is available with them as unutilized credit, not given as refund under any other scheme, export benefit scheme under as zero rated supplies or under inverted tax structure, those cases, fact that an assessee has taken credit, that will debar him from having that particular credit amounts as or the taxes suffered which are unutilized in his books. Those will not be reckoned for taking into account the benefit under the scheme. As I said, the rebate is available to eligible exporters at various rates which are notified, some of which will be ad valorem, which is a percentage of the FOB value of the exports. In respect of some products, it is as a specific or a specified amount of per unit of the goods exported. The appendix R 4R consists of 8,555 export items, where the rates range from 0.01% to 4.3%. This is what I said earlier. Some of the products, though there is a rate which is prescribed of the remission under the scheme, there is also a cap which is specified against some of these per unit cap of the amount of benefit which is being given. So we need to see what will be the rate available and also is there any cap which is prescribed per unit of the export product. Every exporter, when I say every exporter, it is not that each and every exporter will get the benefit. There are certain exclusions. I will come to the exclusions. Exporting manufactured items covered under Appendix 4R will be eligible to avail the benefit. When we say manufactured items, this clearly indicates that the goods which are manufactured in India, even if it is purchased from a manufacturer, a trader is exporting, he will still be, or a merchant exporter is exporting, he will still be eligible for the benefit. There is a need to show that the goods are manufactured and there are some embedded duties and taxes in those goods which are exported, then the benefit will be available. The benefit will not be available for goods which are merely traded, imported and traded, which are actually not manufactured or produced in India. In respect of those goods, benefit is not available.
Ravi,
yes.
Sorry for interrupting. Okay, very well said. The emphasis on manufactured goods. Okay, and you also made it clear, thanks, that any exporter who exports the manufactured goods is entitled for this scheme. That includes as a merchant exporter. Okay, the Central Excise Act is practically not there except for a few commodities.
Yes, sir.
That used to define what is a manufacture for the purpose of levy. Okay, how do you now define a manufacture in respect of the RoDTEP scheme? Whether you have to look at the definition
policy of
manufacture.
Sir, I think we should look at the, since the definition of manufacture is not borrowed, it may be from the manufacturer as per the policies, where it can be a wider term, may even cover certain activities like packing or reprocessing or those activities also can be covered under the definition of manufacture? Or if they apply the general meaning of the term manufacture, will it be goods where there is a new name, character, and use which is laid down by the various judgments of the Honorable Supreme Court?
So you say we can go by the definition of manufacturer as per the policy.
Correct.
Thank you.
So the claim is again subject to various conditions which are specified in the notification 19, which is of 17th August 21. Only IceGate users with digital signatures can avail this scheme. So anybody who is exporting goods from the non-EDI ports who are not otherwise reckoning their exports through the ID IceGate would not be eligible for the benefit. The notification of 17th August, in fact, specifies a large number of exporters or exports which are otherwise not covered under the scheme. Exports of imported goods as per para 2.46 of the foreign trade policy. So because these are not manufactured, no benefit is to be given. Exports by way of transshipments where goods only pass through India and originating from third country, those exports are not covered. Export of products which are subject to minimum export price or export duty again are not covered. This in fact was a restriction under the earlier scheme also. There are some restrictions under the GST laws also to give benefits in regard to these goods where there is an export duty which is levied at the time of export. Typically you take the case of various types of iron ore fines, etc., which are exported. The intention seems to be that the government wants to discourage such exports and therefore not give any benefit in respect of such exports. Though there is substantial foreign exchange being earned, benefits are not being given. We need to see on a case-to-case basis as to whether excluding such categories, say a typical case of an iron ore fine which is being exported, which are available in substantial quantities, there is definitely use of these iron ore fines and other types of ore fines in the country by way of sintering or pelletization for use in the steel manufacturing. Despite that, there is substantial quantities available which are being exported. Now, this product, there is an export duty which is levied at the time of export. That does not mean that there are some embedded duties and taxes which are covered as part of these export products on which foreign exchange is being earned. Why should there be an exclusion? That needs to be reviewed on a case-to-case basis to see whether these exporters can also claim or stake their claim by way of representation or any other mechanism to see whether why should they be discriminated when their goods are being exported and those goods are not being used here for various reasons, but a foreign exchange is being earned. So that is another aspect that needs to be checked. Though this is continuing under the earlier regime also. As I said, under the GST also there is a restriction. There are also products which are restricted or prohibited for exports under Schedule 2 of the export policy. Those are also not covered. Deemed exports are not covered. Supplies of products manufactured by DTA units to SEZs, FTWZ units. Even if these goods, though manufactured in India by a DTA, supplied to the SEZ and FTWZs from where they are exported, since there is ultimately an export of those goods, those will still be eligible for the benefit. But there is a restriction. We'll have to see because some exports which are from SEZs, FTWZs, etc., there is a deferment which is there. We will look into see whether this benefit will come at a future date or not. So these are some of the non-eligible categories. Continuing, products which are manufactured in EHTP and BTP are specifically excluded. Goods which have been taken into use after manufacture. So where you manufacture the goods, put it to use, then second-hand goods, you export those goods. Those are not allowed for exports for the benefit. Products which are manufactured partly or only in a warehouse under Section 65, these are the mover scheme which was introduced. So goods which are manufactured under that scheme and being exported the presumption is that since there is a no payment of duty till the goods are ultimately cleared to the domestic market, the good there is no interest component also, therefore there is no question of any embedded duties coming into those particular products, therefore there is no benefit to those types of goods. Products manufactured or exported in discharge of export obligation against advance authorizations or DFIA scripts scheme, etc., those are again not covered. The next category is products manufactured or exported by 100% EOU, FTZs, EPZs or SEZs. Again, as on date, in terms of the present notification of 17th August 21, benefit is not available. There is a separate paragraph which indicates that for these particular exports made by these units, there can be a benefit allowed at a subsequent date. We will
I have a doubt, Ravi, here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You don't mind answering my question now and then defer it to Q&A, no?
No problem, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
The list of eligible exports or exporter seems to suggest that these schemes like advance authorization scheme is being phased out or EOU scheme is being phased out. Okay, that's the way people also think.
Coming from all this.
So the ineligible exports under these listed scenarios, does it mean that those schemes have been phased out or those schemes will continue to exist?
So it looks like the intention seems to be that they want to phase out these schemes because there are in between, again, there have been some notifications about the EOU schemes continuing or not continuing, benefits, whether it will be available, not available. So the indication seems to be that those schemes may be phased out in the near future. And therefore, for the time being, the benefits are not being allowed. Assuming the schemes are phased out, say from the beginning of next year, and we are from 1st January 21, whatever exports have happened from these units, the ICE gate does not allow for a shaking of the claim, though they can mention it in the remarks. The units would have factored it. We do not know where they will stand as to whether they will be eligible for benefit under the scheme or not. And maybe to answer it now, when they mean to say that they can bring in those schemes also, those exports also into the scheme at a later point of time, whether it will be prospective or will they give benefit to those units also from 1st January 21 is again another aspect that needs to be checked.
Okay.
So maybe there is an indication coming from all this. We'll have to see whether that seems to be the message that is coming, and therefore, in fact, of late, number of EOUs are also looking at taking into reviewing their entire transactions as to see whether they need to continue under that. You have other similar problems in the GST law also. Exports made by these units are not covered for benefits. There are unutilized credits available. So Rule 9610 has been amended. So all those are problems that are there and indications that are coming through from the government, at least if not directly, indirectly, that these schemes may not continue in the future.
So therefore, only two schemes will exist: drawback and RODAP.
RODAP. So going forward, exports from which electronic documentation, I have already pointed out this. So these are some of the ineligible exports under the scheme. As I said, the committee can decide to bring in other products which otherwise are not eligible currently into the scheme and give the benefit. The implementation of the benefit, as I said, to be notified at a later date, as per para 4.55b, the FTP benefit with reference to following categories will be notified at a later date on the recommendations by the RODTEP committee. Products manufactured or exported under advance authorization or DFIA or special authorization schemes issued under the duty exemption. Products manufactured or exported from 100% EOUs, FTZs, EPZs or SEZs. This does not cover FTWZs. These are the products or the exports made by these categories of persons will be covered at a later date. based on recommendations of the ROTEP committee. So these entities have to maybe put in a case as to what are the benefits that they are entitled to, what will be the rates that their products deserve to be brought into Appendix 4R. As I said, though these can be notified at a later date, the issue will be whether it will be from a prospective date, or will those exports also be covered under the benefit under from 1st of January 21. If so, when the shipping bills were filed, there was no claim made for the benefit under the ROTEP scheme because the system did not permit. Despite that, will the government give the benefit to those entities, units also, is one question that needs to be checked. Another would be, if they make that prospective, can these units be considered as being discriminated? Because they also expected the benefits from 1st January 21 for whatever reason, even though the system did not allow them to stake their claim. So that is another aspect that needs to be checked. Again, when it comes, on what basis will the government allow the benefit? Because based on the August 20 letter, the information was called for only from the DTA units, not from any of these units. So therefore, if and when the ROTEP committee recommends, I think there must be suitable representations made by these units to the committee before the scheme is brought in as to what benefits should flow to them and what will be the rates that are applicable in terms of the embedded duties and taxes. One more important thing that all of you would have noticed is that the benefit of the ROTEP scheme is not available to iron and steel products, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals. So in respect of the goods from these industries, where the goods are exported, the rates are not provided under Appendix R. The indication in some of the cases is that these industries are doing well, therefore the benefit is not flowing. Again, another aspect that needs to be checked as to whether the products exported from these industries, do they not have any other embedded duties or taxes in the products? Are they being discriminated? And what is it that these industries needs to do to get the benefit under the scheme? And the specific para has been inserted in the policy whereby the central government has power to modify any of the categories for inclusion or exclusion. So going by one, the outlay of the revenue outlay which is there and the power which is there with the government in terms of para 4.55A, they can include or exclude certain products from the benefit under the scheme. This is another area that needs to be seen, whether the government can always say that they are doing this in public interest. That's an easy route that the government will always have for the courts to weigh in favor of the government, to say the reason for withdrawal or reduction of the benefit is in public policy. So how does the industries then tackle this problem to ensure that the benefit is continuing at the rate specified, if not at an higher rate? What is the criteria for getting benefit under the scheme? The export goods which are intended are already mentioned in the Appendix 4R. There can be additions, deletions to this Appendix 4R. Today it is 8,555. It can be increased, decreased, depending on the recommendations made by the government or by the committee. One important aspect for the benefit of all is that there must be a declaration of intent to avail the ROTEP benefit, and this has to be mandatorily specified into the EDI shipping bills. Most of you would have seen that some of the SSCs under the MEI scheme also had faced this similar problem, where either because of oversight or inadvertently they had ticked no, but in the remarks column they are clearly indicated that they intend to claim the MEIS benefit. though the government issued clarifications, recognized this problem and indicated that wherever there has been a inadvertent indication of no, but a clear declaration on the shipping bills that they intend to claim the benefit, then the benefit is to be allowed. Despite certain those positive clarifications given by the government itself recognizing that there was a problem in the system during that particular period, there are a number of matters which had gone up to the high courts. Several high courts have held that as long as the exporter clearly indicated as part of the remarks that he intends to claim the benefit of the scheme, the benefit cannot be denied. There is no such exclusion or clarification here. Therefore, it made mandated that if you do not indicate the need for claim this benefit and in the shipping bills, because everything is system driven, you will not be given the benefit even if you indicate in the remarks column that you want to claim the ROTTEP benefit. So because it's all system, therefore if you for whatever reason fail to mention that you want to claim the benefit, you will not get the benefit under the scheme. One more important aspect is, at the time when the exports are being made, based on your claim and depending on the rates which are specified in Appendix R, the exporter will be eligible for the benefit under the scheme. But this benefit will be available to you subject to the condition that you receive the sale proceeds of the exports within the time allowed under the FEMA. That's about 9 months or an extended period that is there. So if you do not earn or receive the sale proceeds within the specified period, the benefit which was otherwise granted to you at the time of export can be withdrawn or can be taken back, because it's all system driven. Depending on whatever information is available, they can debit it to your script, to the credit ledger or to the electronic ledger, and then recover that money from you.
Ravi, the sale proceed here means INR exports also, or only foreign exchange exports?
So I think according to me, some of the exports are made to say our neighboring countries like Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, etc., where the recovery, the income, the earnings are also in INR, which are recognized as convertible foreign exchange. I think those should also be covered. What is your view on it, sir? I feel even in respect of such exports, the benefit should be available under the scheme.
Should be. Let us hear Ratan on that.
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, in MEIS, this benefit was not available if you export the goods to Nepal, Bhutan and realize in INR. So specifically here also, because currently foreign trade policy recognizes that exports to Iran and where you realize in INR, probably it will be considered as a realization of foreign exchange. But all other countries, if you export to Nepal, Bhutan, etc., you must realize in freely convertible currency then in order to avail the benefit. Otherwise, this for each and every country, if you export the goods, you are supposed to realize freely convertible currency, except few countries, Nepal, Bhutan and all. So there you can export, you are allowed to export and then realize in INR, but the benefit would not be available.
But Ratan, in that case, some of those exports, even though they are in foreign exchange, what happens normally is that the remittances abroad are made in foreign currency. But when it comes to our bank account, it is through INR, through various accounts, and therefore it is again considered as a convertible foreign exchange. And those were also recognized under the earlier laws for rebate and other purposes. Why this discrimination or distinction now at this point of time, or a restriction?
So even foreign trade policy now also recognizes there are some of the exports like EU countries and all. There they allow that if your payment is realized through Vostro account or Nostro account, in that case the bank will realize in freely convertible currency, but the ultimate realization to the exporter would be in INR. So there they will allow this benefit, but that is for the few of the categories, only specified categories, but not for all other exporters.
Okay. So that seems to be a problem, or it's recognized. Maybe again it depends on how that has to be represented and benefit to be claimed.
Correct.
So the rebate would not be dependent on realization of export project at the time of issue of the rebate. So as I said, when we are exporting, at the time of export, there is no requirement that the realization should have made at that point of time for benefit to come to the credit electronic ledger. So at that point of time, depending on eligibility satisfying all other conditions and not being covered as part of the excluded categories, the benefit will automatically be credited. But if the realization is not made within the stipulated period as per the FEMA or the extended period, then the amount will be demanded and again debited back to the credit ledger. There are necessary rules and procedures regarding the grant of the refund under the scheme. Those again will have to be notified by the CBIC, and we'll have to see whether those rules are compliant enough and there needs to be any procedural requirements or mandatory requirements in terms of the rules that needs to be checked. Now I will request Ratan to take it forward to explain how the procedure of the scheme would work and how the benefit can be claimed. Thank you.